Jack Danger here, back again on stage. This time joined by the working man himself, John Borg from Stern Pinball, famed pinball designer. John, how you doing?
Great.
So John, I wanted to talk a little bit about like your involvement in pinball, your history in pinball. You've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, I started working with Gottlieb Pinball in 1987. I was looking for a drafting job, and I picked up a Chicago Tribune newspaper, and there was a small ad that was about this big. It was microscopic, and it said mechanical engineer needed, and there was a phone number underneath it. Had no description of the company or what it was about. So I walk into Premier Technology and I'm sitting in the front lobby waiting for my interview, and there are pinball back glasses surrounding the perimeter of the lobby. And I'm like, wow, this is a pinball company, how cool. So I get offered a job as an engineer, hydraulics engineer.
What does hydraulics have to do with pinball?
It doesn't. I was offered two jobs at the same time. I was offered a job at a hydraulics company, and I was offered the job in pinball. And I took the job in pinball for less money because I thought it would be more fun. And it's been fun for many, many years.
Of course it is. So you started at Gottlieb as an engineer. How did you cross that step to become a designer?
I worked at Gottlieb as a mechanical engineer for a few years, and my second year in 1988, I got my first patent. That kind of started it, and then I got really, really excited about it. I was there for 3 years, and then I went over and I started to work for Data East. I was hired by Joe Camico and Gary Stern. Then I got my first lead mechanical engineering position working on Hook with Tim Seckel.
Oh, wow.
So that was the first game that I really got to just completely take control of mechanically. And then after that, Camico asked me to lay out a pinball machine, and he asked me to lay out Jurassic Park. And so I started working on the dinosaur, the Beta pinball, and moved back and forth. And then he decided that he wanted to make the Jurassic Park game and told me to change my Jurassic Park game into Star Wars.
Oh, whoa, okay.
So that became Data East Star Wars. I took the dinosaur out, I put the Death Star there, and I'm like, it needs something on the other side. And then I did a little model of R2-D2. I took a wiffle ball, and I made R2-D2's head, and we painted it.
And just chopped it and like...
Yeah, and just put it on, and we decorated it. It looked really nice, and we went to Rock and Roll McDonald's in downtown Chicago. And this thing got played so much, the wiffle ball actually broke on the top, and the head was just kind of bouncing up and down.
Yeah.
So it's been very interesting and a lot of fun, and I've met a lot of great people along the way.
You have a lot of stories from being in the industry for a long time, from like working out a lot of games. You actually got to meet with a lot of celebrities who were part of those IPs. Do you have any like interesting stories about that?
Oh yeah, when I worked on the Guns N' Roses project, I went to Slash's house, and it was right after the earthquake in '93. So I walk into his house, and there were still a lot of cracks in the walls. He's got pinball machines here and there, and then all of a sudden this. He has a 6-month-old cougar named Curtis, and Curtis comes walking out of a room, and I'm like, wow, holy moly.
That's a whole cougar.
It's a young one, it's 6 months old, it's about the size of a German Shepherd. So it walks up to me and it starts brushing against me like a house cat. So I reach down and very cautiously pet Curtis, and he's really cool, and he's hanging around with me and following me around. So then he lays down next to me, so I squat down and I started to rub his belly.
Right.
And then the paw comes up and just went wham and hit me, knocked me down on the ground, and then when I opened up my eyes again, Curtis had his mouth around my neck. He was just playing with me.
A 6-month-old cougar almost ate you.
Yeah.
Metallica is considered probably a lot of people's favorite pinball machines, which you designed. Did they have any involvement in like sort of what was going on there?
I remember when I got the Metallica project, Jody Dankberg came to me a couple weeks in and said, hey, guess what? And I'm like, what? He goes, we're going to record James Hetfield on Thursday. And I was like, I hadn't even really started on the game yet. So I just thought of everything I could possibly think of that James Hetfield would say in a pinball machine, and made a speech list. It must have been 400 or 500 lines. So he recorded everything. And then later on, Lars and the rest of the band members found out that he had recorded speech for the game, so they wanted to do it too. It was great to have all those guys' voices in the game. And then working with Dirty Donnie was awesome too. I wanted to do an electric chair in the game, and I was picturing like a Sin City character, like a convict. You know,
just sort of like a
kind of
beefier,
menacing,
scary,
like
yeah.
he's getting shot. And then Donnie sends me this picture of Sparky. It was just an ink drawing, and I look at it and I go, his name is Sparky. And I called Donnie. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. I didn't picture going the cartoony route like that with that character.
Right.
And it just turned out great. Donnie's art was just fabulous.
I think the cartoony nature of that helps that story. It keeps it lighthearted and fun.
Yes.
Versus being too
Even
doom
the
and
speech
gloom.
in the game was kind of lighthearted.
Yeah. So something I personally wanted to know for a long time is, how did you get to settle on the like 1 in lane, 2 in lane? Like, that's a very unique Borg thing that no one else is doing.
Well, I've been hearing a lot of people saying that, like, when I leave just a wire form and one rubber on the outlane, people get what they call bored.
Yeah, they get bored.
And it kind of like bothers me a little bit. So now I have rubber on both sides to prevent that problem. And it gives you a sporting chance of shaking the ball off.
What was the inspiration for that? Because it's an idea that's carried over through a lot of your games, is like the double in lane, single in lane. Like, when was the first time you did that? How'd you know that was something
I
you
kind of
wanted
like
to
it
do?
because when I play a 4-lane bottom game, I know when the ball gets on that side where I've got the double lane, it's like a catcher's mitt. When the ball comes over that side, I feel safe, although I know I can get bored sometimes.
I love it, man. Well, John, do you have anything else you want to ask me before we bounce out of here?
I got a bottle of tequila here, and I figured maybe we'd do it like a little taste.
Let's
test
go.
before we're
Yeah, let's do it.
done.
I'm ready.
We walk it
And cut.
We walk it